MRG_live is now live. Streaming Just Chatting, Mr.G Hawaii, US States, Puerto Rico, live geography class. MRG_live is now live. Streaming Just Chatting, Mr.G Hawaii, US States, Puerto Rico, live geography class. MRG_live. Set. G.
Play the Mr.G shit.
Mr.G, 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 he's your average teacher, gone IRL streamer. Mr.G, 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 he's your average teacher, gone IRL streamer. Americana writer, got no education. I sped him while streaming on a Hawaiian vacation. Unworn white Levi's were covering his femur until he covered them with coffee and creamer. Mr.G, 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 he's your average teacher, gone IRL streamer. Mr.G, 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 he's your average teacher, gone IRL streamer. Mr.G, 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 Mr.G. Hawaiian vacation. Unworn white Levi's were covering his femur until he covered them with coffee and creamer. Mr. G, Mr. G, Mr. G, Mr. G, he's your average teacher on IRL streamer. Mr. G, Mr. G, Mr. G, Mr. G, he's your average teacher on IRL streamer. Mr. G, 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 Mr. G, 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 Mr. G, 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 Mr. G, 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 Mr. G, Mr. G, Mr. G, he's your average teacher on IRL streamer. Mr. G, Mr. G, Mr. G, Mr. G, he's your average teacher on IRL streamer. Mr. G, 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 Mr. G.
Hey everybody, I'm Mr. G. Welcome to my class. Sorry. Oh. Whoa, 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 whoa. I hope everybody's having a wonderful day today. Today is Wednesday. We're going to be learning all about the territory of Puerto Rico. It's part of the United States, but it's not a state. It's a territory. Some people call it the nation of Puerto Rico, but that would be incorrect because Puerto Rico is not officially a nation. It's actually the oldest colony in the world. It's the oldest colony in the world. It's one of two last Spanish colonies. Did anybody show up to class today? Is it just me? Okay, well, if you're not watching this live, give it a thumbs up and for my efforts. Hey, thank you, TNT. All right, so getting on with today's lesson. I'm going to go and put my website on the board. So if you want to know more about me, your instructor here today, you can go and check out the website, gxnetwork.live. All right, we're going to be learning all about Puerto Rico today. The capital of Puerto Rico is San Juan, Puerto Rico. It's one of the oldest cities in the United States. It's over 500 years old. Like I said, Puerto Rico is the oldest colony in the world. It was first colonized, guess, in 1493, not 92, because it was on Columbus's second voyage that he discovered the island of Puerto Rico. The island of enchantment is Puerto Rico's nickname. And that was Christopher Columbus. He was the first European settler to discover he didn't discover anything. The Taino Indians, they had already been living there. The Taino Indians had already been living there for some time when Columbus got there. Columbus stayed 2 days in Puerto Rico in 1493, and he claimed it for the King of Spain. In the corner here, right here, I'm going to put it on the other side, is a famous statue in Puerto Rico, the Christopher Columbus statue. Let's see if Google knows anything about it. Hey Google, volume 9. Hey Google, can you tell us about the Christopher Columbus statue in Puerto Rico?
On the website motherjones.com, they say, clocking in at 6,500 tons with a height of 350 feet, the birth of the New World has 45 feet on the Statue of Liberty, and like her, presides over a kind of port of entry. The shores of Puerto Rico, one of the first places Columbus and other Spaniards made landfall in their conquest of the so-called New World.
Thank you, Google. So, as Google told us, this statue here, this statue of Christopher Columbus, it's actually taller than the Statue of Liberty. It's one of the tallest statues in the entire world. It's right there on the beach in Puerto Rico. They have that statue, and then they also have an ancient rock carving of a Taino Indian which is also massive. I'll show you a slideshow of that. I think I've probably fixed the effing. I don't think it's going to F today. I reset everything. I called up a technician and asked him some specifics, but we should be good. All right, so some basics about Puerto Rico. What is the island of Puerto Rico called? Well, it's called the island of Puerto Rico. There was at one point, I have to mention this before I forget.
Nice.
After the United States took over Puerto Rico, doesn't it have such a beautiful sound? The Spanish language by far is one of the Romance language, and it's one of the it slides off the tongue. It's very romantic. It's aesthetic, and the name Puerto Rico. I can't roll my R's, but it just rolls off the tongue. Puerto Rico. But get this, right? In 1898, when the United States took Puerto Rico from Spain, it happened during the Treaty of Paris in 1898. After the Spanish-American War, Spain lost, and Spain had to give the United States Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. The Philippines became their own country, and Guam. Oh, and also in the Treaty of Paris, it's called the Treaty of Paris. Which is actually the second Treaty of Paris. It's not the Treaty of Paris for the Revolutionary War. It's the Treaty of Paris for Puerto Rico. So if you want to look up any of this, there's actually two Treaty of Parises, two major ones. But I'm talking about the second one that ended the Spanish-American War. That Treaty of Paris granted the United States Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. It also rescued Cuba, as pronounced in Espanol, from the Spanish. It liberated Cuba, and which is kind of ironic, in hindsight. The United States were responsible for Cuba gaining its independence after the Spanish-American War and the Treaty of Paris. But I don't know why I got on that particular topic, because we have the three islands of the Puerto Rico, and I know I was talking about the island. The island of Puerto Rico. Oh yeah, I was going to say one thing before we get into the history. It's just funny, I'm going to write it on the board. So after the United States got control of Puerto Rico, they didn't like the way the Puerto, P-U-E-R-T-A sounded. They're like, oh, we don't like that Puerto. So they forced all the Latinos in Portland, all the Latinos in Puerto Rico to change the name of their country to something more English friendly. So they changed the wonderful name of Puerto. This is how it's, normally spelled. Puerto. Puerto Rico. And those damn Yankees forced the people of Puerto Rico to change the spelling of Puerto to Porto. P-O-R-T-O. Puerto Rico. It's more Caucasian friendly, I guess. Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, right? Nothing, no laughs or anything. But that's funny. And that lasted for about 30 years, from about 1898 to the early 1930s, when they were like, yo, you can't just go to a freaking Latin American country and be like, hey, we want you to change your name to something more English friendly. Because that's basically what it was. But yeah, let me see if I can find an old sign that says Puerto Rico. It lasted for 30 years. If you ever see a sign that says Puerto Rico, you can dictate when that sign originated. All right, let's see.
The Smiles. Hey, Mr.G.
Hey, Smiles. Is that Bella? Hey, Bella. Aloha. I was like, hey, Smiles. Hey, Bella, have you ever been to Puerto Rico? Well, on Friday, we're going to be learning about Cuba. Just because, after reading about Puerto Rico, I just want to learn about Cuba. I cannot find a sign that says Puerto Rico, so we'll just put regular Puerto Rico. But yeah, that was in 1898. We were talking about something else, though, right? Well, I was talking about the islands. There's three major islands in Puerto Rico. The main big island, it's not called the Big Island, like here in Hawaii. It's called the island of Puerto Rico. It's the island right here on the board. Where's my pointer? That pointer gives me authority. Right. Ta-da. This is the island of Puerto Rico. As you can see, it's shaped rather like a muamua, maybe? It's shaped like a, class, help me here. The island of Puerto Rico, it's shaped like a piece of poop. I don't know. Well, whatever you think it is shaped, okay? All right, while we're on the board here, this is the Puerto Rican flag. It's a lot like the Cuban flag, except the Cuban flag reverses the colors. Like I said, the last two Spanish colonies on Earth are Spain and Cuba, and so they have similarities in the flag. Also, I should mention what the flags represent. The two white stripes actually represent independence from the United States and from Spain. Believe it or not. How's that working out for you, Puerto Rico? No.
Very good.
And then the three red stripes actually represent the warriors, the blood from the warriors. The star represents the independence, and the blue represents the ocean. I'm pretty sure. Let's ask Google. Hey Google, can you tell us about the flag of Puerto Rico?
According to Wikipedia, the flag of Puerto Rico represents and symbolizes Puerto Rico and its people. The origins of the current flag of Puerto Rico, adopted by the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico in 1952, can be traced to 1868.
Hey Google, what do the stripes on the Puerto Rican flag mean?
According to Wikipedia.org, the two white stripes represent the victory and peace that they would have after gaining independence. Do you want a little more context?
Yes.
The three red stripes represent the blood from the brave warriors. The two white stripes represent the victory and peace that they would have after gaining independence.
Victory and peace.
The white star represented the island of Puerto Rico. The blue represents the sky and blue coastal waters.
Okay. So I was, pretty much correct. Peace and liberty but they don't have independence. They're a colony. They're the oldest colony in the world. What are the top industries of Puerto Rico? Manufacturing is one of the top industries. They're one of the top manufacturers in North America for pharmaceuticals, textiles, and electronics. Believe it. Yes, the coqui frog. There's an expression in Puerto Rico, I'm as Puerto Rican as a coqui frog. And a coqui frog, I know a lot about Puerto Rico. I actually took a class on Latin America. I took many classes on Latin America in college at the University of Texas. So, much appreciation to my Latin American teacher. I took it a lot during summer school too. Let me get a coqui frog. And, all of this, just about all this that I know. I did review. Hey, Soulfly, watch out for the coqui frog.
Puerto Rican.
Oh, yeah? So this is a coqui frog, and the coqui frog is endemic to Puerto Rico. You cannot find it anywhere else. It's only in Puerto Rico. And like I said, there's three main islands in Puerto Rico. There's the main island of Puerto Rico. There's Culebra Island, which is sparsely populated. Culebra Island has the famous flamingo white beach. What else? And the Tamarindo Beach. You know that drink Tamarindo? I think they sell it on the mainland, and it's like they sell it in South Texas. I know Tamarindo Beach. I don't know why it's called that, but it's one of the top scuba diving places in the world. Tamarindo Beach. Puerto Rico has some of the top beaches in the world. They have 270 miles of beaches, over 300 beaches. There's three major islands that are inhabited, but there's actually over 100 islands and inlets. There's one island called Monkey Island where people aren't allowed to go. And a few different tropical rainforests and observatories. Mona Island is uninhabited. It's the third largest island in Puerto Rico. It's right in this area called the Mona Passage, right between the Dominican Republic. Mona Island is uninhabited, but there are many different birds and turtles and different species. The largest reptile in the world comes from Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, and it's the leatherback turtle. Similar to the turtles that we have here, but it's a little bit bigger. Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico has a 90+% literacy rate, just like Cuba. There are stereotypes for a reason, but say Cuba and Puerto Rico, separate them aside. People that are from Puerto Rico and people that are from Cuba are some of the smartest, most intelligent, most athletic people that you can find. Cuba and, I'll stop saying Cuba. Cuba and Puerto Rico, they both have great schools. The University of Puerto Rico, we'll talk about that in a little while. They both have great health care. Cuba, we're going to learn about Cuba on Friday since it's very similar to Puerto Rico. Cuba has a top-notch health care in the world. And also, the United States could learn something from Cuba's health care. Their hospitals. And I don't know, I'm a little off. I ate a cannabis brownie before class. So, okay, I'm a little off, class. Don't mind me, but I'm still smart. and I did prepare. I watched the documentary and a bunch of other stuff. All right, what were we talking about? We're talking about islands. I'm just going to talk about Puerto Rico. All right. Well, we talked about San Juan is the capital. It's 500 million years old. It's the second oldest city in North America. It's on the main island of Puerto Rico. Most people that visit Puerto Rico go to San Juan, Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a very safe place for tourists. They welcome tourism as one of its top industries. Let me get back to the manufacturing. A lot of clothing is made in Puerto Rico. A lot of pharmaceuticals. Barcelona, Puerto Rico has the clearest water in the world.
TDD, an island.
And so they actually, of the majority of the United States pharmaceuticals actually are made in Barcelona because they have such pure water. And so when they're making these pharmaceuticals, they need this pure water. Puerto Rico in general, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. They're known for their blue cobblestone streets. There's a lot of bars on all the windows, but they still make it look nice. But the city with the blue cobblestone streets are nice in the different colors. But also the beaches. They're known for having blue sand beaches, black sand beaches. I mentioned the famous Tropicana white sand beach, or the Flamingo white sand beach, sorry. And some of the greatest beaches in the world. It's a mountainous area, but it doesn't vary in climate. It doesn't ever it's similar to Hawaii, it doesn't ever get below 60 degrees, and it doesn't get above 90 degrees. There's very little variation in the temperature. Let me get back to the industries. Tourism is one of the top industries. I mentioned they're very tech savvy, so a lot of electronics and different websites and stuff are made there. Fish, seafood is also, real estate is really big there because a lot of people from the mainland, it's part of the United States. You don't need a passport to go there. You don't need a visa to go to Puerto Rico. And, you can go there, relatively, it's very cheap there. Real estate is expensive, but it's very inexpensive there. It's one of the cheapest places to eat. One of the best and cheapest eats you can get is in Puerto Rico. The average GDP in Puerto Rico is $39,000, and I'm not 100%, but I think that would be probably the lowest in the United States. Not many people make less than $39,000 per year in the United States.
Puerto friendly.
Especially with the and he bought the drugs in a shanty town in Puerto Rico, and then he started taking pictures and posting it on Instagram right there with the drugs, and the people told him not to, and then so everybody in the street killed him. But yeah, so if you go there and you buy drugs, you use the peso. They use the American. So there is a lot of crime there. I mean, there's bars on all the windows, but like I said, it seems to be pretty safe for tourists. Similar to Hawaii, there's a lot of crime in Hawaii, but it's very safe for Japanese tourists because you rarely ever see any of them targeted in crime. A lot of military gets targeted in crime here in Hawaii, but not tourists, not international tourists. All right, so continue on. So Mrs. J, her countryman, doesn't seem to make the class today. I don't know. I guess I haven't heard from them. That's fine. The class goes on. And we're going to have another class on Friday, too. So I mentioned Puerto Rico and Cuba. We're going to learn about Cuba on Friday. They're really good in sports. Puerto Rico is part of the United States, but they actually participate in sports in Puerto Rico.
RSJ
Hey, Mrs. J.
said, here, dealing with bad news.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. J. Things get better for you, Mrs. J. So, what were we talking about Puerto Rico? I lost my train of thought here. Well, Spain.
TDD. Okay, cool.
Spain ruled Puerto Rico for 400 years. And then I'll just go back to the history. Spain ruled Puerto Rico for 400 years until the Spanish-American War, when the United States took over, and they have had it since. Since then, it's been a United States territory. Like I said, it's the oldest. It's the oldest colony in the world, and it is still a colony. And some people argue about that, but it is a colony. There's no getting over it. We're talking about sports. The most popular sports in Puerto Rico are baseball. They're awesome at baseball. A lot of Major League Baseball players are from Puerto Rico. It's the number one sport. But then also basketball. They're really good at basketball. They competed against the United States in the Olympics and put up quite a fight. There's a few different NBA players from Puerto Rico as well. And baseball and boxing. They're really good at boxing. There was such a tragic story recently. I wish I didn't watch the news and hear about all those horrible stories.
Ewan_dub said, you were saying it a part of us, but allo independent in a way.
Yeah, independent in a way. They don't vote for president, so they have no say in federal elections. But they do, they are U.S. citizens. They can travel freely between the mainland United States and Puerto Rico, and they do vote in local elections, and they're represented by their local people in these elections as well. Let's. I was going to mention there was a horrible Puerto Rican boxer, a scumbag. He's going to prison for the rest of his life. He's probably getting the death penalty. He did an unspeakable crime. But he was a famous Puerto Rican boxer. Now he can rot in hell, as far as I'm concerned. So we won't even bother mentioning that guy. But he is in the news recently. All right, so continuing on. San Juan, Puerto Rico is the main place in Puerto Rico. The population of Puerto Rico is just over 3 million. So to put that in perspective, the population of this island in Hawaii is just over 1 million. So the majority by far of Puerto Rico live on the island of Puerto Rico, and there's 3 times as many people there than there are in Hawaii. Puerto Rico, like I said, they can't vote for president. They have no say. It's representation. It's taxation without representation. Puerto Ricans, there's no income tax. However, they do pay taxes on businesses and different kind of taxes as well. And it's written in the United States Constitution that you cannot have taxation without representation. Taxation without representation. You can't have that, but that's exactly what's going on in Puerto Rico. So, to put it bluntly, the politics in Puerto Rico are based on whether Puerto Rico should be a state, whether they should be a territory, or whether they should be an independent sovereign nation. Now, I'm not Puerto Rican, but they do have elections, they do have votes on this, and over time, that's what the political parties are split in between. Whether you want to be a state, whether you want independence or whether you want to keep it how it is. And there's a big argument going on, and it's been ongoing.
NTDD, they were way off with the flag off.
It's been ongoing ever since. Here's a bar graph, a circle graph that explains it. So now in 2020, more than 61% want statehood. 33% want to be free association, so not a territory, not a statehood. And I guess currently what it is. And then only 4.5% want their own independence. So yeah, that's kind of a downer, you know. Well, I mean, in my opinion, I think they should be a state. You know, they would be the 51st state. And I'm not doing it for political reasons. Like a lot of liberal Democrats want Puerto Rico to be a state because they think, oh, well, they're Latino and they're for sure going to vote Democrat. They must love Joe Biden, right? No, I don't think of it like that. There, as shown in the last election, many conservatives, especially those in the Cuba, in the Northeast Caribbean Sea, you know, where communism, a lot of people did not enjoy. They tend to vote Republican, and they're against socialism, and that was shown in the last election with the amount of Latinos that voted for Donald Trump in South Florida, with the amount of Puerto Ricans and Cubanos that voted for Donald Trump in South Florida, and in Arizona, which we're going to be learning about next week, and other places as well. So I think Puerto Rico should be a state just because it's the oldest territory in the world, and I think that they should have as many rights as individuals in the United States. However, you know, but I don't know. But I'm speaking from a perspective in Hawaii. So Hawaii is a state, and well, I don't know. It's a tough situation, and like I said, I consider myself a conservative, but I'm not a Republican. I don't agree with the Republican stance on not letting Puerto Rico have statehood. I think they should have statehood. I think they earn the right to have statehood. If you guys are on Twitter, I tweet about different topics, sometimes political, every day. You can follow me on Twitter. It's on the screen there. But back to Puerto Rico, one expression of Puerto Rico is Puerto Rico does it better. I also told you another expression is I'm as Puerto Rican as a coqui frog. The coqui frog is the frog endemic to Puerto Rico. Also, it's known as the land of enchantment. That's its nickname. What else? Puerto Rico does it better. I guess, the land of enchantment, one thing I should mention is there's more caves and underground rivers in Puerto Rico than just about anywhere in the world. There's miles and miles of unexplored caves. Some geologists estimate that there's hundreds of unexplored caves that have never been stepped in and that have never been seen. One of the largest rivers in the world, the underground rivers in the world, is in Puerto Rico as well. The largest river in Puerto Rico is Rio de la Plata, and Rio de la Plata is about 46 miles. Runs from it runs around lengthwise in the course of the island there. So, there's only two mammals
500 million years, whoa.
native to Puerto Rico, similar to Hawaii. It is an island, so not many mammals are going to be able to get there. And that is a bat, and I think it was just a bat. And there was like a barkless dog somehow. There was a dog that didn't bark. Yeah, that's the one. So yeah, there used to be, those are the only two mammals that were there before humans got there. I don't know how the hell the dog got there, the barkless dog, but Puerto Rico is largely Roman Catholic, like 80-90%. You'll see a lot of churches in different places in Puerto Rico. They're very religious, typical of Latinos. Let me see, here's a religious graph right here. As you can see in the corner here, the green, the light green, represents the amount of Roman Catholic, and Protestant and all other religions, as you can see, is a very slim 15%. So 85% of the people are hardcore Roman Catholics that go to church every Sunday. And I don't know if they take the Bible literally, or I don't know how that works. Okay, carrying on. So Barcelona is a very attractive place. I mentioned they have the largest pharmaceutical complex in the world because of their water. That's also Barceloneta, sorry, is also where you'll find the blue sand beaches. I'll put up a picture of a blue sand beach here. Puerto Rico is known to have the most beautiful beaches in the world. Hawaii and Puerto Rico. Actually, I'll just put up the Puerto Rico flag there. And, it's true. Like I said, they have blue sand beaches. That's what you'll find in Barcelona. And another popular attraction, the three most popular places to go in Puerto Rico is San Juan, Puerto Rico, the capital, by far. And then Ponce, Puerto Rico. Ponce, Puerto Rico is known for its exquisite architecture, bright colors, and flamboyant styles. Ponce, Puerto Rico is its second largest city, about 150,000 people. Like I said, the architecture, it's known as the Ponce Creole architecture. They have many different restaurants, bars, museums. If you're going to Puerto Rico and you don't want to go to like the main touristy place, and you want something a little bit artsy, off the beaten path, then Ponce, Puerto Rico is the place to go. Ponce, Puerto Rico has castles and different type of buildings and stuff like that. If you want to skip the Bacardi tour, then go to Ponce, Puerto Rico, where you can see wonderful castles like the one on the screen right here. But yeah, in Puerto Rico, there's lots of tourist things to do. There's the Bacardi rum tour. Puerto Rico actually produces more rum than anywhere else in the world. There's 3 different kinds of rum. There's light rum, dark rum, and aged rum. And I think 85% of the 85% of Bacardi's rum comes from this particular factory. They produce over 100,000 bottles per day in this Bacardi factory. And like I said, they do have tours and stuff. I actually don't drink that much, but I would drink a little white rum, a little clear rum is okay. I don't like dark things. Like I like white rum, white wine, but some clear rum like this one up here. I think that would be pretty good. But yeah, Puerto Rico is known as some of the most beautiful blue beaches in the world. This beach right here is a famous blue beach in Barcelona. The microorganisms in the water actually sometimes even make it glow like this blue or even neon blue because it's so clear and so blue. They're known for their very, very blue beaches in Puerto Rico. So I do want to talk a little bit more about the people that were there before Columbus discovered Puerto Rico, and that was the Taíno Indians. This is a famous Taíno rock sculpture that had been in the rocks for I don't know how long, but before Columbus got there. And to put it in perspective, let me see if I can show you another one of an individual. It's huge too. When you see somebody walking there, it's a Taíno, ancient Taíno Indian sculpture right here, and like I said, it's huge. It's like something from Raiders of the Lost Ark. I really liked it and was looking into it. But the overall town, this is a picture of San Juan, Puerto Rico. It's got a lot of class, and there's bars on the windows, and there is a lot of crime there. But it is a really like a classic historical place.
Said. Hey, Mr.G, grin.
Hey, what's up, Sanchez? Aren't you in prison, Sanchez? All right, that's another Sanchez. No. Okay, but overall, the main points about the island of Puerto Rico, because some of you might want to go there. I mean, especially now, look at all these mainland tourists that are coming to Hawaii. right? I'm sure it's just as cheap to fly to Puerto Rico right now too. And if you're ever going to Puerto Rico, the main thing to remember is the northern part of the island, you have San Juan, Puerto Rico, gets 5 million visitors per year. The southern part of the island, you have Ponce, Puerto Rico, Ponce, Ponce. Now, if I was going to Puerto Rico, that's where Mr.G would go, is to Ponce, Puerto Rico. And because that's where, the architecture is, and it's a little bit off the beaten path. I wouldn't really attend the Bacardi rum, tour. Maybe I actually would, The Bacardi rum tour might be interesting.
Sanchez said, "You're talking about Smooth Sanchez, tears of joy."
Oh yeah, Smooth Sanchez, is that your little brother? Or what? I wish him the best of luck. But yeah, Ponce, Puerto Rico. Ponce. Now that's where I would go. It's not as crowded. It's not as bustly. I did see some pictures from the Bacardi rum tour, and I saw some guy drinking a pina colada, which was invented in Puerto Rico. It wasn't invented in Cuba. It was invented in Puerto Rico. The salsa wasn't invented in Puerto Rico. It was invented in New York City. However, the salsa is the most popular dance of Puerto Rico by far. It uses different classic dances from Cuba and Puerto Rico, like the cha-cha and the do-si-do. not the do-si-do. That's what they do in Texas! No, the cha-cha and the rumba. Oh, you want to do the rumba? All right, what were we talking about? Ponce. Ponce, Puerto Rico is in the southern part of the state. A lot of less tourists there. There's not that many people there. Only 100, 200,000 people live there. And if I was going to Puerto Rico, there's beautiful beaches everywhere. But Ponce, Puerto Rico, in the southern part is where I would go. All right, continuing on. Let's talk about some of the agriculture. Puerto Rico grows many things, even better than some things in Hawaii as well. We can't really grow watermelon in Hawaii, but watermelon does grow there.
P.I.P. Picasso, I bought your book. I thought it was good, even though everyone else seems to think it was bad.
No, actually, it's got a perfect rating with everybody that bought it. My book, Gonzo Education, actually has a really good rating, but we're not talking about Gonzo Education. This is my book right here. If you're interested, it's available on Amazon.com and Walmart.com. And everybody that has bought it has given it 5 stars. Okay, continuing on. So, just about everything that grows in Hawaii also grows in Puerto Rico. They can grow a few more things too, like cotton and watermelon, because you need a little warmer temperatures, I guess. But they do grow coffee there. I mentioned that Hawaii was the only state that grows coffee. Puerto Rico is part of the United States, a territory, and there are actually over 10,000 coffee farms. Yes. You heard me correctly. There are over 10,000 coffee farms in Puerto Rico. It's just on the main island there. It's a coffee lover's paradise. They have good coffee in Kona, but they have just as good coffee in Puerto Rico apparently, and they have a lot more coffee farms too. In Hawaii, there are coffee farms. On this island, there's maybe only 3 or 4, and then on the big island near Kona, there's a couple dozen coffee farms, but there's not 10,000 coffee farms. What does that tell you, class? Well, there's a lot of poor farmers in Puerto Rico. If you're not in a major city, then you're near a coffee farm. Coffee is one of their biggest exports. They export a lot of things to Germany and to Ireland and to the United States as well. All right, so more about food. We're talking a little about food. Empanadas, I'm going to show you some pictures of that. Pasteles. I said they have some of the best cheap food in the United States. Inventions. They invented the Taino Indians actually invented the hammock. The Taino Indians, with the rock sculpture that I showed you, just put it right there, they actually invented the hammock and the barbecue grill. Which was not known in Europe. Was not known at all. This is a picture of 2 Taino Indians relaxing on a hammock. The Taino word for hammock is cachita. Cachita. And here is a Taino woman sleeping in a cachita hammock. But yeah, they also invented the barbecue grill. And, it's a really simple invention, but... Columbus and the European settlers were not aware of barbecue grills and how they worked. What else? I showed you the giant Columbus statue. Here's another picture of it. It shows it kind of big. It's actually taller than the Statue of Liberty. Here's a picture of the tank that has been on the coast. It's a World War II tank. It's been on the coast of Puerto Rico. It's a famous tourist attraction. But I looked up recently before the class. Apparently, you're not allowed to go there anymore. But people have gone there, and you can climb in the tank, and all the buttons are ripped off and everything, but you can still climb in there. There's a lot of YouTube videos about it. So we'll watch one too. Oh, I'm going to be in this trivia contest tomorrow afternoon, and I'm going to probably try to stream it. And then tomorrow night, JR is going to be teaching a class as well. Oh, and I'm going to be uploading a video of my lunch earlier. Once again, here's a picture of Ponce, Puerto Rico. Ponce, Puerto Rico is where you would go if you wanted to get off the beaten path. They have more art museums, a lot of eclectic buildings like the one that you see here, and it's not as touristy as the San Juan. Is that Nessa? Hey, Nessa. Aloha. Hey, Tech One. Aloha, Nessa. Thanks for coming to class today. We're learning all about the great state of Puerto Rico. I mentioned that Puerto Rico, it's a very poor country, but it's a very safe country too. And you got to give us some credence to that. And it's a beautiful, beautiful country. And even though they're poor, they have really great healthcare. They have really great schools, and they're very smart people. They only speak Spanish, basically. English and Spanish are the two official languages, but they aren't really spoken. And it's one of the only places in the United States, including Hawaii, that still read the paper newspaper. Yes, people in Hawaii still read the newspaper, and people in Puerto Rico still read the newspaper. There's over 18 different newspapers in Puerto Rico, and most people, young and old, still get their news from the newspaper. I don't know what Hawaii and Puerto Rico, if you see anybody reading in Hawaii, it's a newspaper. And in Puerto Rico too, people still read the newspaper in Puerto Rico. They have a really good school there, the University of Puerto Rico. It has over 472 different academic programs. It's in San Juan, Puerto Rico. It's over 118 years old, and has about 20,000 students, which isn't very high. But like I said, they have one of the highest literacy rates in the world. So, and they have one of the highest internet usage rates in the world. They're very much illiterate, and they're very much internet literate as well. So, they're smart guys, The rest of Latin America are dummies. Look at Mexico. No, just kidding. No, okay. No, seriously, they're one of the smartest parts of Latin America. All right, here's some famous Puerto Rican landmarks in the corner here. You have another Columbus statue. You have the famous statue at the University of Puerto Rico. I'll show you another one. This is the clock tower at the University of Puerto Rico. University of Puerto Rico is one of the oldest schools. This is one of the oldest clock towers in the United States. The school that I went to also had a huge clock tower as well at the University of Texas. What's some more things? I talked about how the dollar is the peso there. Puerto Rico makes a lot of rum. It's one of its biggest exports. What else? Like I said, it's a very poor community. They didn't invent the salsa, but the salsa is a very popular dance there. And the salsa actually got its popularity in New York City in the 1960s. And then it just became like a trend. It's not like an ancient Latino dance like the other ones, like the rumba or the cha-cha. I mentioned the blue cobblestone streets. This is a good example, a good image of the blue cobblestone streets that are all around Puerto Rico. Definitely has a flavor, definitely a taste of its own. I'm interested in learning more about Cuba for Friday's class, try to see some distinctions between the two. But it seems like a really nice place, and like I said, it's the #1 ranked place for street food, and it's a really inexpensive place as well. To do some traveling, and not that far away either. What's some more? There's a lot of ancient, structures in Puerto Rico. This is one that dates back to early Spanish colonization on the beach in Ponce, Puerto Rico. And you can tell why it's sand type architecture. Puerto Rico women are known to be Puerto Rico people are known to be very friendly, very feisty, and not afraid to speak their mind or their opinion. There's a lot of protests that happen in Puerto Rico a lot. There's a lot of national pride, and I say national, but it is in its own country, but a lot of times you hear the nation of Puerto Rico, so it's got its own thing going on. Nothing else is similar to that. One of the largest single lens observatory telescopes is located in Puerto Rico at the Arecibo Observatory. Let's see if Google knows anything about that. Hey Google, can you tell me about the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico?
According to Wikipedia, the Arecibo Observatory, also known as the National Astronomy and Ionosphere Center and formerly known as the Arecibo Ionosphere Observatory, is an observatory in Barrio Esperanza, Arecibo, Puerto Rico, owned by the U.S. National Science Foundation.
Yeah, a lot of different discoveries happen there, including figuring out that the exact time that it takes Mercury to travel around the sun. Another big attraction in Puerto Rico is Plaza Las Americas. Plaza Las Americas is one of the most profitable malls in the world. Right up there with Ala Moana Mall in Honolulu, where I'm at. They're both outdoor malls, and they're two of the outdoor-indoor malls. Like you can see, it's a building, but it has an open-air malls is what they're called. And they're also two of the most profitable malls in the world as well. And that's at Plaza Las Americanas.
Bonjour, hello everybody, laughing face.
So, some more things about Puerto Rico. Let's see. Something funny there? Okay. All right, I don't think I made a joke. Maybe you're behind in the chat or something. So here's another image of the University of Puerto Rico. Like I said, it's one of the top universities. I would look into graduate school at the University of Puerto Rico. It seems like a pretty safe place. And good education, too. It does only have 18,000 students as well. But I've only heard good things. And just to review, show you this slide right here. This is how the United States gained control of the territory known as Puerto Rico.
Sorry, I ran late. G had to take care of some bullshit.
Oh, it's okay. Thanks for coming to class, countryman. You're welcome here. We're just finishing off the lecture portion of today's class, and we're going to do a short slideshow with 8 of the most famous foods in Puerto Rico after I'm done speaking here. So I did want to mention the Taíno Indians again. The Taíno Indians are in Cuba and in Puerto Rico. They were there when Columbus got there, the Taíno Indians. And they were decimated. Their population is almost extinct on Puerto Rico. There's supposed to be one village somewhere. There's a village somewhere in Puerto Rico where the Indians, the Taíno Indians, are still there. And then there are more of them on Cuba than there are in Puerto Rico. So what else? Puerto Rico is responsible for 5 Miss Universes. Like I said, they're known to have really beautiful women and very famous salsa dancers. All of the world's most famous salsa dancers are from Puerto Rico. They do the salsa supposedly better than everybody else. We mentioned the coqui. We mentioned taxation without representation. The people in Puerto Rico, they don't vote for president. They don't have any representation as far as U.S. senators or the House of Representatives. But they don't have a personal income tax. But that's Texas doesn't have an income tax. Florida doesn't have an income tax. But they still have a say-so in federal elections. So there really is taxation without representation in Puerto Rico. And it's a big divide whether they want to be a state, they want to be independent, or they want to continue being a territory. And, of course, I said what my opinion is. I think they should be a state, but I'm not a Puerto Rican. And so I don't have a say So it's whatever they really want to do. I'll show you a bar graph here. Puerto Rico, it has a very wide variety of people. This is the ethnic composition in Puerto Rico. And as you can see, a lot of them, Puerto Ricans, consider themselves white or Caucasian. So they're white Puerto Rican Latino. So they're white, they're Latino, and they're Puerto Rican. It also has a strong black Puerto Rican population and people from other races as well. And, or I should say different ethnicities. Tomorrow we'll go over the ethnic makeup of Cuba, and you'll see some similarities as well. There's black Cubans, and then there's Euro white Cubans, I guess you would call.
the mermaid.
But we're all humans.
That is surprising.
Yeah, it is. And a lot of time, because I don't mention a lot of, I guess some people would think it's a slippery slope, but we're being, as professional and objective about it as possible, and it's just an interesting. They have an interesting racial makeup due to its colorful background over the last 500 years, 400 years of Spanish rule, and over 100 years of United States rule as well. I have to put on my teacher clothes. I'm I'm a teacher now, and so I talk like this. Blah, 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 blah. Put on my teacher hat. No. Shut up, Mr.G. All right, Puerto Rico. It's known as the land of enchantment, or in Espanol, Isle de Enchantment. Puerto Rico itself, what does the name Puerto Rico mean? Well, what does Rico mean?
Said, "You look sassy today."
Thanks, Mrs. J. I've had a really productive day. I got up at 3 a.m. The kitties were okay this morning. They weren't too bad. And then I, fed the kitties.
Jojo, are you going to go on next?
I cleaned the whole. I'm going to do Cuba on Friday, and then I cleaned the whole my whole apartment. And then I went out to breakfast, and I went and met up with a friend of mine. And then I took care of some paperwork, and then I transferred some money. I'm doing some taxes for another friend. This time of year, I do taxes for people. Wait, hold on. We're talking about Puerto Rico. No personal questions. I don't want to...
I got.
Anyways,
said,
we're going to go into the...
and Keanu packages to 11:17.
We're going to go into the slideshow here.
7305.
Actually, don't send packages there, because I'm going to get a new P.O. box. I don't like that one.
MRSJ, the mermaid, said, very productive, awesome.
Thanks. I'm not. I can always be more. There's always room for improvement, right, guys? Thank you all for being here today. The class started a little slower, but I appreciate all you guys being here. I was actually running late as well today. Before I forget, this is the Puerto Rican flower. This is a Puerto Rican spindalis, and that is the Flor de Magos. Is also what it's called as well. What else? We're going to go over some of the foods of Puerto Rico. The national dish of Puerto Rico is arroz con grandules. Arroz con grandules. All right, and I apologize if I'm not pronouncing that. Arroz is like rice. Arroz con dulces. Actually, I'm pretty good at pronunciation. Arroz con dulces with a pina colada on the side. They should have pina coladas more often in Hawaii. But,
Rice.
I'm surprised they didn't invent the pina colada in Hawaii, because they like pineapple, they like coconut. Like what? They didn't think of mixing the two? I mean, okay, well, the spam, you got that one. No, seriously. The main thing to remember about Puerto Rico, it's one of the most beautiful spots in the world. Definitely in North America. It has some of the most beautiful beaches. Like I said, over 270 miles of beaches, over 300 beaches. There's 3 inhabited islands, but there are over 100 different islands. And, it's a really interesting place. The Taino Indians, they used to call Puerto Rico Boricuras. Boricuras. So if you see the name Boricuras, then that means Puerto Rico. When Christopher Columbus discovered Puerto Rico, he named it San Juan Bautista. Obviously, that name didn't stick, and that was named after the Pope at the time in Spain. But yeah, it's a beautiful place. There's little seasonal variations, so if you don't like warm, cold weather like me, then that's the place to go in the winter. If I'm doing business on the mainland United States, I'm going to be looking around Puerto Rico as it's somewhere that I could see myself going. It's known as the Land of Enchantment, and or Isle de Encanto, and that's because it's a beautiful mountainous area. There's mountains in the north. There's mountains in the far west. There's over like hundreds of unexplored caves. There's a whole unexplored ground river, one of the largest in the world. Like I said, Puerto Rico, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world, and it has a wonderful place for tourism as well. Like Hawaii, they rely heavily on tourism. Unlike Hawaii, Puerto Rico has a very poor GDP. GDP per capita is about 39,000. I think my neighbors down there, they make less than that. Ha ha ha. But that's low, 39,000 too. You guys should move to Puerto Rico. But continuing on, because I heard them yelling up in my class, is why I yelled back there. We mentioned how the United States, they actually called Puerto Rico, they forced Puerto Rico to call it Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico. See, I guess they can hear me. I don't even need to talk because I turn off the fans and the air conditioner. But hey, just because they can hear me for 1 hour, big deal. I hear those disgusting human beings and they're fucking yelling all day with their doors open. And I hear they're pushing their shopping cart full of Vienna sausages. And I hear them fucking yelling. They have fucking how many people in there? What the fuck? Thank God only one person lives here. Because you got how many people living there? 5? 10? So fuck you. Because this is going to be quiet and I'm going to have the ACs and fans on. You're not going to hear shit as soon as my class is over, lady. That's an example of Hawaii people just hating school. Like, what are you doing teaching? We do not like the teaching you. Like, fuck you. I'm Mr. fucking G, bitch. You're lucky to be in the same vicinity of me. Alright, continuing on. Sorry about that, class. Believe me, the next place I have the classroom, it's going to be in a much better neighborhood where we'll only hear the sound of the beach. I can hear it now. The breeze of the North Shore coming through the window of my beautiful classroom and hearing the waves as they crash on the shore. Can you hear it, class? It's wonderful. Look out the window, class. Look at the ocean. Isn't that beautiful? The half-dressed Filipino woman. All right, continuing on. The highest point in Puerto Rico is Serra de Punta. It's about 4,000 miles. Like I said, Puerto Rico, it's a beautiful area with mountains and beaches. And the people are known to be very friendly, hospitable, and really great people. There's got to be some animosity towards the United States, but they are part of it. I don't know. You guys make a judgment about that. Like I said, there's almost 10 miles of caverns and caves under Puerto Rico. There's underground rivers. There's it's one of the most beautiful places that we've studied. And, not part of the mainland United States either. Like I said, there's no representation there's taxation without representation, which is unconstitutional. So that's something that they should work on.
Puerto Rico is having storm damage and definitely not a tourist destination for at least 5 more years.
I really think that Puerto Rico deserves to be a state, personally. And the vast majority of the people there also want statehood as well. They want to be able to vote in federal elections and other benefits that may come from achieving statehood. They are American citizens. Anybody in the United States that's an American citizen, you have the right to travel to Puerto Rico. You don't need a visa. You don't need a passport. It is part of the United States. All right, so that's about it. Any questions about Puerto Rico? Anything we missed? Huh? Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we learned about Columbus. We learned about Puerto Rico, and on Friday we're going to be learning about the great country of Cuba. So we've only done the United States so far. On Friday we're going to be learning about our first country. All right, so we're going to start the slideshow of famous foods. It's only 8 foods, so it's going to go pretty quick. I think the internet's been going really good, so I don't think we're going to F out. But then we'll do the famous foods, and then I'll play a short song about the Puerto Rico anthem as well. All right, so let's look at these delicious Puerto Rico foods. Have you guys ever ate at a Puerto Rican restaurant? I once attended a birthday party at a Puerto Rican restaurant, and I very much remember the food. It was very delicious food. All right, up first we have empanadillas. Empanadillas. Let me show you one of those. All right, an empanadilla. And according to escator.com, these little half-moon shaped turnovers are filled with a savory mix of ground beef and potatoes. Whether fried or baked, the filling is seasoned with 2 Puerto Rican staples, sofrito and achiote. Sofrito is browned onions, garlic, and peppers, is seasoned with olive oil and coriander. Achiote is nutty, sweet, and earthy spice that comes in both powder and oil form. After filling and frying, a top-notch empanadilla will have a slightly crunchy crust that yields to a richly seasoned, hearty filling. Popular filling options on the island are lobster, conch, and shrimp, but the possibilities and seasonings for this Puerto Rican dish are endless. Those are delicious. I have had those before. All right, and then up next we have rellenos de papas. And it's more de papa, our savory little bits of snacking joy. All right, so far we just got some appetizers here. Now we have some tostones. These are tostones y maduros. Now, plantains are a Puerto Rican staple, and for a good reason. Unripe, starchy green plantains, twice fried, are called tostones. These crunchy snacks are best prepared simply with a sprinkle of salt and then dipped in garlic sauce. Consider them the Puerto Rican equivalent to the French fry. Maduros are their ripe and sweet counterparts. Lightly fried or grilled, maduros make for a deliciously sweet side that are perfect for balancing salty dishes. All right. Now, up next we have pasteles. These are very popular in Hawaii as well, because Hawaii actually does have a lot of Puerto Rican culture. All right, served either as a side or a full entree. On American menus, mofongo is usually made with chunks of grilled chicken breast or cubes of pork. It is often topped with stewed shrimp as well. Wow, mofongo, guys. Have you guys ever had some mofongo? Pass the mofongo. I'm hungry. All right, up next we have pernil. Oomph. Fresh pigeon peas, herbs, and additional seasoning turn this hearty side dish into a sturdy base for an entree. So, that's the national dish of Puerto Rico, and apparently it's rice and beans with a bunch of extra add-ons that people like a lot. And I hope you like this class a lot because I really do like teaching it. If you're watching this on YouTube, give it a thumbs up. If you're not watching this live on YouTube and you want to know about your particular state and you're from the United States, we've actually done a class on each state. So go ahead and check the playlist and check out your own state so you can find out famous facts, fun foods, and other fun things about wherever you're from. So I hope you guys enjoyed the food portion of today's show, today's class.
Thank you, Mr.G, for this amazing series.
You're welcome, Mrs. J. Like I said, it's my pleasure. If you guys want to know more about me, Mr. G, your teacher, my website's on the board there, gxnetwork.live, And also, if you want to follow me on Instagram, you can get me on Instagram at Gregory Joseph Brandt. I post on Instagram a few times per day, but not as much as I tweet on Twitter. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, then it's at Gregory Brandt. Once again, I appreciate everybody for coming today. It was a wonderful class. Special thanks to Mrs. J and Countryman. I appreciate you guys a lot. Shout out to Nico and her garden. And shout out to Irene and all the other people that take care of the kitties. Shout out to Bella. Thanks for coming to class. And shout out, special thanks to Lita. If you're watching, Lita, aloha. And thank you for everything that you've done for me and the cats. Your guys' help and support is more important now than ever. If you guys didn't know, the stock market crashed the last couple days. So you know I'm going to be working really hard. You know, I'm not pulling in the C notes that I am. The stock market just totally took a crash. So I'm going to be working more hours at my other job and stuff like that. But any kind of support that you guys can support. So that's why special thanks to Bella. You know, I know you thanked you before and again. And special thanks to Lita and also Mrs. J and Countryman. You guys make this possible. With your help for moderation. We've been going live on YouTube, which is something that I wasn't doing previously, just because of the amount of trolls and harassment. But you guys doing a great job moderating and keeping it under control. So we've really kept that down to a minimum, really. So thanks for applause, guys. And we're going to end it with the Puerto Rican song, a Puerto Rican song. We'll just say a prayer. They're very Catholic in Puerto Rican, Roman Catholic. So, you know, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I never even had the jump on today. Give us, but all right. Anyways, I didn't have the autopilot on. Okay, sorry for interrupting prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Dear God, thank you for everything you've given us. Thank you for this wonderful class. Thank you for everybody that you brought to this class. Please watch over all these good people, and thank you for helping us build the community. And please help me build the community even more so we can teach more people and help more CATs. Thank you for everything you've given us, the Father and Son and the Holy Spirit. All right, guys, we're going to play a short Puerto Rican song here. I was saying I didn't have the autopilot on the whole class. So you guys didn't notice there's no more Zooms or anything.
Mr.G. Amen. Aloha.
Thank you, Mrs. J. I really wish I would have had the autopilot on. You know, I guess we didn't have it on today, but I guess nobody noticed. I noticed at the end there. All right, so this is I'm trying to find the official song of Puerto Rico for us to listen to here. All right, so Lin-Manuel Miranda, I guess he's Puerto Rican. This is the Puerto Rican national anthem, La Borinquena. Once again, Puerto Rico, it has a national anthem, but it's not a independent country yet. So this is the Puerto Rican national anthem, and also play some famous images from the most beautiful state, Puerto Rico. I mean, the most beautiful territory. Hawaii is the most beautiful state. So, I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. Once again, we're going to have class on Friday, and it's going to be all about Cuba. So, same time, same place this Friday. Also tomorrow, check out JR's late night class. And special thanks to Nessa as well. Thanks for stopping by to class, Nessa. And hope to see you guys all next week too, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Everybody have a good day, and enjoy the Puerto Rico National Anthem. Aloha!